the Madman! It's the top cards of Custom Hearthstone week of March 30th. Obviously during the weeks where the real cards come out, we gotta focus on those, but now I'll return to your custom goodness. Custom Hearthstone is also doing a community event currently where they're celebrating years of creating custom Hearthstone cards and trying to crown some winners in order to send their custom Hearthstone cards over to Blizzard HQ official. Let's start with Battle Mage, 3 mana, 3/2 neutral. Battlecry, give your weapon +1 attack, improved by spell damage. Design 5 stars, balance 5 stars. Is it okay for a neutral card to take the mage mechanic of improved by spell damage? I think that's fine. That could be general, I suppose. As a baseline, it is very similar to Cutthroat Buccaneer. It's already not that much worse just on the base, so obviously where you want it is to give +1 spell damage to it. In which case, it seems like it would be a little decent payoff. Seems questionable in terms of how good it would be, but one possibility is a low-cost weapon such as Light's Justice, followed up with a high spell damage possibility such as Spellzerker, and then bam, could in theory give your Light's Justice +3 attack. Possibly could be buffed to a 3 mana 3/3 even, if the spell damage wasn't around. A Warlock spell, the Meaning of Evil. 3 mana, shuffle the 4 components of evil into your deck. E for Explosions, deal 4 damage to all minions. V for Vengeance, lifesteal, deal 5 damage. I for Insight, draw 3 cards. And L for Loot, choose a fantastic treasure, all of which cost 3 mana. Design 5 stars, balance 5 stars. Meaning of Evil is a 3 mana legendary spell which does nothing when you cast it. After you cast it alongside with one of the shuffle results, then you have slightly gotten like negative a little bit in terms of value, because 6 mana, 3/3, for deal 4 damage to all minions, or lifesteal, deal 5 damage, or draw 3 cards, or choose a fantastic treasure. For all of those, it's a little bit below the curve. In order to get your value out of this card, you have to shuffle, and then you have to draw and play 2 of the shuffled results. And then the question is that overpowered? Can your Warlock deck legitimately go that long? One side note is that the designer had no idea that Plot Twist would be printed before printing this card, and Plot Twist is a interesting card which would allow you to really sift through your deck for this part, making the card even more high synergy. Given that we've seen that Plot Twist doesn't really work well, I think that this is actually an extra compelling reason that this card would be good. It also synergizes with Augmented Alec, where you could potentially shuffle 8 of these cool cards into your deck. Worth mentioning is that this is a localization nightmare as well. I don't really know how other languages have gotten EVIL translated, so good luck, translators. Bran Escape Artist, 3 mana 3/4 legendary, neutral. Your discover options have 1 extra card. Design 5 stars, balance 5 stars. So what this card means is that whenever you're discovering cards, instead of seeing 3 options, you're discovering 4. Get that extra flexibility, but where it may not be immediately obvious is that some discover cards allow you to keep multiple cards. So with playing Bran with those cards, you're getting 4 instead of 3. I'm gonna say this is a pretty minor effect. Seems alright to me. Yogg-Saron Scheme. 6 mana mage spell, cast 1 random spell, upgrades each turn. Design 2 stars, balance 2 stars. The entire expansion theme is based off of Rafam and his 4 crew, and there's exactly 1 scheme for all 5 of them. And what's this guy doing? Yogg-Saron Scheme. It's like, what? Did we hire Yogg-Saron? I don't understand. But let's talk about the card. Is it okay for this card to exist? Is 6 mana to cast 15 random spells okay? It's dangerous. This is one of the schemes that's growing in power the most out of all of the schemes. So let's go back and revisit all of the scheme effects. You can get an extra 1/1 that's capped off at 7. You can deal an extra damage to all minions, and that's the most powerful one, Hagatha's. You can gain 1 extra armor a turn. It's obviously the weakest one. You can shuffle an extra minion into your deck, and you can reduce the attack of 1 minion by 1. So these effects they're relatively small. Casting a random spell that's arguably as powerful as drawing a card, arguably. Like, obviously a huge amount of variance in how good that is compared to draw a card. Yogg-Saron's scheme is just scaling way faster than everything else, and it gets a little bit insane. It's a major problem. This is the type of card that I could see being priced at 10 mana and still being overpowered. It just doesn't work out because when you're getting up to like 15, 20, like you start to decide the game off of how a spell cast. I think that's pretty crazy. I think it's fundamentally flawed. Some effects just cannot upgrade each turn. Robotic Junkyard, 4 mana warrior spell. Add all 7 spare parts to your hand. Design, 5 stars. Balance, 5 stars. You know, this would have been a fun reskin also for Dr. Boom's scheme. You know, add a spare part to your hand, upgrades each turn. I'd say a spare part is worth less than half a card, so it's 4 mana to draw about 3 cards worth of stuff. With the drawback that it clunks up your hand with like 7 cards. And of course having 7 extra cards in your hand can be considered an advantage also. Some possibilities with Guided Sand Auctioneer if you want to turn your trash into treasure. Gives you a lot of deck building ideas. Jinxy Blast Wheel. 2 mana Mage Legendary, 1/4. All spells that cost 2 or less that started in your deck have Twin Spell. Design, 4 stars, balance, 3 stars. My problem with this card isn't in Standard at all. In fact, if I was only writing for Standard, I'd probably let this go with a 5 and a 5. But there are some serious problems with Wild here. Picture this turn. Jinxy Blast Wheel, Sorcerer's Apprentice, Frostbolt, Frostbolt, Ice Lance, Ice Lance, Ice Lance, Ice Lance. Frostbolt, Frostbolt also, by the way. That's a problem! Touch of Shadows, 3 mana priest spell. Restore 4 health, overkill, summon a 5/6 shadow. So I'm torn. Am I willing to give a priest card that can only heal, which has the word overkill on it? Is that okay? Keeping in mind that Hearthstone is a game meant to be inviting to everyone, and is this too confusing? And I'm gonna say no, it's not too confusing, this is fine. Design, 5 stars, balance, 5 stars. And I feel like turning your healing into damage is a core enough priest concept that we can get away with this as a card. It is balanced around a card like Baited Arrow. This lowers the mana cost on it, raises the amount of damage it could do, raises the health on the shadow payoff, with the obvious drawback that you need to specifically combo it. And I think that in terms of the combo potential and the elegance of the card looks like it'll work just fine. Got a rogue spell. A secret even. 2 mana, Silence is Golden. After your opponent plays a Battlecry minion, its Battlecry doesn't trigger. Design, 4 stars, balance, 2 stars. I'll start off by saying that the name is way of a miss compared to what we could have instead. Garrote. That's a actual rogue spell in World of Warcraft, which has to do with silencing and cutting the throat, basically. The wording on it would read better as corrected by Reddit. Secret, when your opponent plays a Battlecry minion, its Battlecry doesn't trigger. So meant as a combo breaker, the main problem is, can you dedicate a card slot in your deck purely to stopping an opponent's Battlecry minion, not even killing the minion, you're just stopping like a portion of it for 2 mana. So how can you possibly balance such a minor effect? Well, I think, like many niche effects, you could balance them by adding draw a card to the end, and that's about the only thing I can think of that would be a reasonable effect. Like, I thought about maybe stealing the Battlecry effect, stealing the minion, killing the minion, silencing the minion, who knows? Like, there's a bunch of possibilities, but it's hard to balance around exactly a 2 mana effect. So maybe it could just be simply draw a card at the end. Joke's there. 2 mana, 0/7. At the start of your turn, silence all other minions. Design, 3 stars. Balance, 4 stars. The only thing I don't like about it is the fact that it permanently blanket silences the board, which is a bit of a problem, until it gets turned off. But there is also the problem that since it silences all other minions, it doesn't touch itself, so you could really buff this card and make it hard to kill, like, you know, Divine Spirit Inner Fire. And in fact, you could just do that currently as a really cheap 2 mana 7 health minion, which stays on the board. Easy fix. At the start of your turn, silence all minions, including itself. Then it comically stays on the board as a 2 mana 0/7 as your little joke sayer buddy. Secretive Acolyte, 1 mana 2/1 Warlock Demon. Battle Cry, cancel the battle cry of the next minion you play this turn. Design 5 stars, nervously, and balance 5 stars. Currently, I don't really see a problem with Secretive Acolyte, with the most negative battle cries being stuff like Pit Lord and Witchwood Grizzly. But there is a problem in terms of limiting the negative battle cry design space. It's the type of card where you clearly want to combo it with as negative as battlecry effects as you can find. Once you find the right one, it could be super imbalanced, so it might be dangerous to print a card that limits like the negativity of battle cries that you could hit yourself with. In the long run, probably a card like this can't be printed unless you very specifically designed the sets that were coming out and made sure that you had no plans for insane battle cries. And finally, we've got a happy little Zen bot. 1 mana 3/3. Mech. Magnetic. Can't attack. Design 5 stars. Balance 5 stars. You can magnetize it onto stuff, which makes the magnetized mech also can't attack. But you could put it on a taunt. You could put it on your Ziliax after you've attacked. Might be a little bit dangerous to play turn 1 Zen bot and to turn 2 Silence, Dalaran Librarian. There might be a critical mass at which Dalaran Librarian becomes too good, but I think a 1 mana 3/3 is fine. But yeah, cool to see some custom Hearthstone cards. It'll be cool to continue to see what people came up with during the Rise of Shadows reveal period, and what people are going to come up with now that we are going to start having the meta establish itself just a bit.